Recipes for Disaster, a handcrafted film cookbooklet by Helen Hills.
Revisited by Serra and Michael Mangieri. Helen Hills was a pioneer in handcrafted and DIY filmmaking. She tragically passed away in 2007, but left behind this incredible document of her work. This book was originally written in 2001 and was last revised in 2005 when Helen was living in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina with her husband and collaborator Paul, their 10-month-old son, and their pet pig Rosie.
It's been 19 years since Helen Hills last revised her book, and I have been teaching non-camera filmmaking at the new school and feel that some of the information could be revised, revisited, and updated for a younger generation so they can have the pleasure of working in analog filmmaking. Helen Hill's book is divided into 3 sections: cameraless animation, camera tips, projector tricks, and hand processing film recipes. But we are going to cover cameraless animation and recycled images because cameraless filmmaking, you don't need a camera and you don't need a darkroom and you don't need chemicals to develop. And in recycled images, you can use found footage film stock, make assemblages, collages out of already existing film, which is better for the ecosystem.
We recommend to start with 16mm film as the format because it's more accessible. 8mm is too small to hand paint or scratch on, and 35mm is hard to find the equipment for and it's more expensive. Most experimental films are made on 16mm, and so it's easier to find recycled film strips. Here's a good illustration of a strip of 16mm film held upright. Notice that the sprockets, those are the little square holes, are on the left side. And 24 single images make up 1 second of moving film time.
The film strip, motion side, is the side of the film that you will work with for drawing and can be removed. For example, for Black Leader, you wet the emulsion, the dull side. You wet it, and the emulsion softens, you can get a sharp instrument like an X-Acto knife, sandpaper, and you can scratch. And not scratch, not penetrate the film surface, not break the sprockets, but actually draw into the frame these small 16mm frame surfaces. You can also use household bleach, 4 parts to 1 part of water, to paint out some of the emulsion. You don't use oil-based paint. You can use magic marker, you can use ink, but oil-based doesn't dry. When working, it's very important to remember when you're working on film and you're drawing on it to hold it up to the light to see if light penetrates through it. If you're applying the paint too thick, or if you're then you will not, light will not pass through, and it'll just look like a dark surface.
Now, the leader is typically the strip of film that's added to the beginning or the end of a reel. In other words, it doesn't have an image on it, and it's either opaque or clear. And you can find it in abundance, recycled and used.
Recycled images are readily available on 16 millimeter format because the majority of 16 millimeter experimental films are made, actually Canettas, like ads were originally broadcast on 16 millimeter, educational films, science films from the 40s and 50s. And this is available to re-edit, reassemble in the montage technique. Montage is editing, is how you put the film together. You could assembling it based not on storytelling, regardless of the content. You can do it by structure of the film. You could also do it on rhythm, on movement, on form, and be more creative, not worry about beginning, middle, and end, continuity. What you're doing is making a collage, a montage, a collage, an assemblage. And this is actually a great way to make films. And it takes time, but also it's also pleasurable. It's fun to put films together and discover connections between animation and different decades and ads, commercials, and to cut it in a new way of seeing, a new kind of creative vision. What you're doing in recycled image is like personal vision, how you feel towards the materiality of the process.